My name is Gary Craig. I'm one of 4 aircrew officers with the AGL Rescue Helicopter. Normally when we go for an emergency task, we go with a crew of 3. That's the pilot, the aircrew officer and the intensive care paramedic.
My name is Peter Maris and I'm pilot at the Bundaberg base for the AGL Action Rescue Helicopter.
My name is John Kennedy and I'm an air crewman from the AGL Action Rescue Helicopter Service. I also fulfil the role of the base manager here in Bundaberg.
My name is Kevin Charteris. I'm an intensive care flight paramedic employed with the Queensland Ambulance Service. I'm trained as a winch paramedic, so I can be winched in to rescue people in very isolated places.
I'm Peter Potros. I've been currently living here in Bundaberg and working for the rescue helicopter in Bundaberg itself. Our day-to-day process working here as a rescue operator is we come in, we get the weather, we assess the aircraft, maintenance hours, our crew times, our sleep times, which is very heavily monitored, and we assess whether we can go onto a job, whether we can't go onto a job.
Even though Bundaberg has areas that are known to go underwater, this was far greater. It was far more widespread around the Bundaberg area. So areas that I'd never seen covered by water were suddenly underwater.
We had that information coming through that we knew that was going to be an event, and we'd been out to some of those outlying areas because some of the outlying areas were inaccessible. We actually moved our spare aircraft from Maroochydore through to Bundaberg. We brought in extra crews and had 3 operational aircraft here supporting the greater Bundaberg and North Burnett area.
It was an extremely high workload time, so the aircraft did not sit around doing nothing for pretty much any part of those whole 4 days that I was on shift over that Christmas New Year period.
This aircraft here is a BK117. It performs the role for the job we do. It's able to take 2 stretcher patients. It's fitted with a winch on the side of it, on the right hand side. That's able to lift 2 people or 270 kilos on the hook.
Winching inherently is a dangerous activity, and it's a last resort activity. If there's other options where the aircraft and crew are not put at risk, we'll do those other options.
A lot of the work we were doing was based on the fact that it was a medical response to people who needed medical treatment, but the Queensland Ambulance Service could not get to them by road. They were ill or sick or were having cardiac episodes, or even people that were on medications. It doesn't take much of a change in wind or the initial phone call to tell you where you're going to be a little bit out, and you only have to go an extra 5 or 6 miles away from your fuel supply. And by the time you have to come back as well, that's can make a 4 or 5 minute difference in your flight time. And as you can imagine, helicopter fuel burn rates are really quite high.
A special rescue, I guess, was down towards Gympie. We went to a lovely family down there and we rescued them off the roof of their house in the basket. Evacuations from Agnes Waters and Baffle Creek areas due to the people being bitten by snakes. Thankfully, a lot of those people knew good first aid and called early for the emergency services to come and assist.
The rescue of the couple at Ferrymead on the banks of the Burnett River. I can't stop thinking about how stressful it must have been for those people during the night, seeing the floodwaters rising so fast and coming into their house. There was this beautiful horse in the paddock and he had nowhere to go, and he was sort of up to his chest in water. He just stood there and waited for the water to go down, and eventually when they could get back there, he was great. But it was very distressing to just see the poor horse in the floodwater, knowing there was nothing you could do about it.
The flood events of 2013 and the tornado situation, we were actually out flying when the tornadoes first came onto the coast. We had to make a near emergency landing to get out of the sky when the strong winds came. So that was the introduction to those tornadoes for us, was land in a hurry and look after the aircraft and the people on board until that forceful wind period had passed.
We were sort of re-diverted once again, headed back towards Madubbera to just absolute chaos. The river was just huge. It was approximately 27 metres the river had risen at that stage. When we arrived, we had people stranded on a little island that the river had gone around. We were lucky that there was local operators actually on scene already, and they did a fantastic job of just ferrying people off the island back to somewhere safe. community spirit is an amazing thing, and everybody just banded together, helped out.
The evacuation of the Bundaberg Base Hospital was a pretty large scale event, something that I'd never experienced in 23 years of my paramedical service. You know, the whole ambulance hangar out at the airport was filled up, you know, with over 100 patients that were evacuated. The airport here became a triage centre, a mini hospital, you know, an army base headquarters for the week, and was basically home to every emergency service, rescue helicopter and fixed wing service that was flying in and out of the area. It was just very admirable to see the community spirit of people joining together to help you know, their fellow strangers, but also their neighbours.
Little did we know that what was going to happen could have such a devastating impact on Bundaberg and the districts of the North Burnett regions. I did a rescue over North Bundy of a gentleman, and he had one arm. So he's an amputee and had to put a rescue sling on him. So he's suffered a fair bit of loss in his life. You know, he's got a deficit he's got to live with, and here we are, we're doing a rescue with a rescue sling. And so basically we put the rescue sling underneath their arms, you know, so he's lost his arm. And so that's a pretty difficult thing to do. To me, it gives me great strength within to think that everyone just chips in and gets the job done, yeah.